Hello and welcome to Embarcadero University course, Data Modeling with Studio. In this session, we'll show you how to document an existing database. We'll walk through the reverse engineering wizard and show you how you can visualize an existing database. We'll also show you how to generate an HTML Internet Dictionary report. We'll show you how you can use the macros to do some a la carte reporting to Excel and Word. And then we'll show you how to configure the macro shortcuts so you can enhance the workflow throughout the product and bring in some of that reporting to your fingertips. Okay, this session is about documenting an existing database. And we'll start off this session by reverse engineering a live database. In that case, I'll go up to File, New, and select this second option to reverse engineer. This will prompt the reverse engineering wizard, and in this case I want to use a native connection because I'm going to reverse engineer SQL Server. If I have one of the other main platforms like Oracle, Sybase ASE, or DB2 LUW or 390, I can choose those from the native dropdown as well. If there are any other platforms, I can use an ODBC driver. So I'll have to give my login information, and then in this section I'll decide what object types I want to reverse engineer and what databases and what owners I want to reverse engineer. So in this case I'll just select a couple schemas, hit OK, and then for the sake of time we'll just pull back user tables. But note, for SQL Server you can pull back user views, triggers, procedures, synonyms, and other objects here. These objects might be valid for other platforms as well. We'll continue through the wizard. In this step we can actually pick and choose which tables we want to reverse engineer. In this next step we can actually decide on some further options here. We can actually infer primary and foreign keys if there are none in the database. We can also infer domains, which would allow us to build a domain for each column that exists in the database. We can also choose a layout, and if you're reverse engineering a very large database, I would pick another layout besides hierarchical, which can slow down the reverse engineer process. You can always lay it out later as well. We'll get a summary here at the end, and then I can hit finish. So now we have a logical and a physical model that has been reverse engineered from SQL Server. There are a number of reporting capabilities that we can do from the RStudio Data Architect client. We'll start by focusing on some of the a la carte reporting that you can do through macros, and then get into the full HTML documentation you can do. Another session will focus on the reporting through the web portal. So let me navigate over to the macro tab. And in this case you can see under the metadata management macros that I have a number of export options to Excel. You can actually write your own macros as well. You can just simply double click on one of these macros and write your own if you're familiar with Visual Basic for applications. If you're not, you can just leverage the existing macros that are here. And if I right click on a macro, then I can select Run. And what this will do is it'll prompt me a dialog that I can now pick and choose what I want to reverse engineer. Now there are a number of options here. Again, and this UI was completely built within that macro editor. You can customize this as well. But in this case, maybe I want entity name, entity definition, attribute name, attribute definition, data type, null option, and whether each column is a primary or foreign key. Now you'll notice that the macro also provides an export scope. So in this case we didn't have any objects selected, and I would just all objects is available here for me. That would be all objects in the current model. And then I can also have selected objects, and if there were selected objects, this would be available as well. And again, this was how the macro is coded. This can be changed if you want to do a number of different things. So let me hit OK, and this is going to actually export this entire model to Excel. You'll see here if we switch over to Excel, we can see that it's exporting, and we have the entity name here, we have the definition, the attribute, each attribute definition, and then column data type. And if we scroll over here as well, we have some further properties for each column. So this is great if we want to actually sort on the attribute name or the entity name and do some analysis here within Excel, or we want to hand this off to someone. It's great if you have new objects in a model and you want to just select them very quickly and then dump those to Excel and send that off to somebody and say, these are the objects that we've added. Do you approve? You know, whatever might be the process there. Now let's go back to ERStudio Data Architect, and we'll go through the HTML reporting. This is if you wanted to wrap up the entire DM1 file and publish it out to HTML for users out there. We'll go to Tools, Generate Reports, and you have a number of options here that you can choose from. We'll go through the HTML report. There's also a RTF reporting as well. We'd be able to pick a target directory, and you can also pick a quick launch, which would actually allow you to save the settings at the end of the operation for another time. So if we did that and we want to run the same report, this quick launch would help us with that. In this case, we'll go through and manually select everything. So I'll hit next, and in this step we have objects under the diagram to select. We have the properties on the right. I can go to the data lineage tab, the data dictionary, and security. And you can see if there's no objects listed on the left that there's nothing to report on, so you don't have to select anything there. These tabs will be dynamic, so if we had views or triggers or store procedures, you would see those. We don't show them if those objects are not in the model. I'll hit next, and here we have the option to generate images for each submodel. And that's what you see over here on the right. You'd see a list of all the submodels that you have. You'd be able to select the image type, the zoom and quality for each image. The image type is a global setting. So I can just hit select all. In this case, we have two main models that we'd be generating images for. And in this case, the logo link options, you can put your own corporate link, logo, a link to a site, and that would be visible in the report. There's some other options here in terms of object definition and note formatting. If you want to wrap the text, you can do something like that. Or if you have carriage returns and other formatting that you've manually done for each definition, you can say preserve the reporting. We'll hit next. We'll have some other properties that we can choose here, and then I can hit finish. This is also where we'd actually save the quick launch. So if we want to save this particular report generation operation, that's what we'll be doing here with this quick launch. I'll just hit finish. So this will go through and generate everything to HTML. And you can see that since I selected everything, there's quite a bit to go through. Now what you'll see is basically a fully navigable HTML report. We have the data model tree on the left. We can expand that just like we would in the product itself. We can expand the entity node, and I can navigate through these to see any specific properties that we have. If I want to see a picture of the model image, I can go to model image, and here we'd have the ability to see any other entities or tables that belong for that particular main model. These are dynamic, so I can click on the contact entity and it would take me directly to that, and we'd see here the details for that particular contact entity. So that concludes an overview of how that you can very quickly document an existing database and go from reverse engineering to HTML report or to Excel. And in another session, we'll focus on the portal reporting.